So I used to think that intuitive painting had to be done with acrylic paint. That is where I first learned it from. That is all I had really seen around. And so that's what I've done the last several years is I've used acrylic paint. Well, this past 5 to 6 months, I I have been going through breast cancer, and so I wanted to be able to paint because painting is my therapy. It is how I work through my thoughts. It's how I focus my energy and really take care of my mental health. But acrylic paint is hard to get everything spread out, and it's just messier, and there's parts of that I really love, but I needed something that was easy to get out and pack away, that I could do if I had to be laying in bed. And I just really wanted something that was just a little easier. And so I decided to try watercolor again. And to be honest, I used to hate watercolor, which is kind of ironic now because I love it, and I don't know that I will ever really go back to acrylic paint. I'm sure I will in some ways, but I have fallen in love with watercolor and working with gouache also. It is this new challenge, and I know from the picture, from the thumbnail, I guess it's not fully intuitive because it is a landscape, and so it's kind of like an abstract landscape using the principles of intuitive painting to do it. And I also do my first layer where I don't plan anything out. I don't think about even what picture I'm going to be painting when I'm using, like sometimes I don't use any type of picture for reference, but lately I've been doing some landscapes, like looking at, and I still like to start, but I try to focus, since I'm using watercolor, I try to go really light with the colors. Because one thing I've learned as I've experimented more and more with using watercolor for intuitive painting is that, you have to start lighter and build up with watercolor. And I'm also going to say, I don't really like to follow rules. I want to just play and have fun. And so if you are an expert in watercolor, you might see some of my ways I paint and be like, what is she doing? And I still, I get into trouble sometimes because I don't know all the rules of watercolor. I don't really want to hinder myself. I don't know if that's the right word, but I really like to just follow how I'm feeling. And that's what I loved about intuitive painting, because when I can just relax and trust that it's going to turn out, I paint a lot better. I am so much happier with the end result, where if I get caught up with, oh, that's getting too muddy, or this is happening, or that's happening, then I start kind of criticizing myself more, and I stop painting because I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is terrible. And this painting, there are several moments that I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why did I put this yellow in the background? Because I decided to have water through here. And so it was making it green, and I'm like, I don't want my water to be green. And so it's really this lesson in trusting yourself. I think that's the thing that's amazing about intuitive painting. And I think it's why I use the term intuitive painting, even when it's maybe more of an abstract landscape, is because for me, it's the mindset of intuitive painting. It is this idea of letting go and letting yourself play and following what feels right, and not like, it's supposed to look this way. I had this in mind, and this is what I'm trying to get done. And especially when working with an inspiration picture, it's very tempting to be like, that's not really, that wasn't here or that wasn't there. But with intuitive painting, like, you can add to it, you can change it, you can make it whatever colors you want. I love doing unexpected colors. I love these, the lines from intuitive painting and the motion and these extra little marks and these things that, if we get stuck on trying to make something realistic, we can tend to leave out or not do because that doesn't make sense. That's not there. That's not in real life. That's not, and so for me, the landscape ones, when I've been doing those, has been focusing my attention on how I was feeling in the moment when I took these photos. And I think I know I've been a lot more just emotional given everything that I've been going through, and a lot more sentimental about things. And one of those was these moments of these places I've been and photos I've taken where I distinctly remember just being in awe and like, man, how amazing is it that I get to experience this, that I get to witness this, that I get to see this. And I think we kind of take those moments for granted a lot. And so I wanted, these paintings I was doing, I wanted to focus on those moments and that part of life of just being in awe of this gift of life, that we get to be here, that we get to experience this life, and how blessed and how lucky I am, despite all the hardships, despite all the things that also come along with the gift of life, and not letting the hardships overshadow everything else. Because, when you're going through hardship, it's very easy to let that really put a shadow over everything else. And I have been running the Art of Living Vibrant for a while now, and going through this, I definitely didn't feel vibrant on a lot of days. I was so tired. Going through surgery, I had radiation, new medication, and there were lots of days that I felt very, very tired and felt far from vibrant. And I kind of doubted like some of the things I've been saying and this idea of vibrant. But it was reminding myself that I made a vow to myself years ago that I was going to live my life, that I was going to be vibrant. And so that doesn't mean that I'm going to be, and vibrant, by the way, it means full of energy and enthusiasm. And it's this enthusiasm for life. But being sick, being run down, not having energy made it very hard to feel like I could hold that up to being vibrant. And so I had one day that I was feeling really, really tired. I was like, I'm just gonna, I put on some of my vibrant clothes. So I sell vibrant leggings and sweatshirts and bandanas and stuff like that. And so I had like my super colorful leggings on and a sweatshirt. This is it's okay to move at your own pace, and a bandana that's bright, tied on. And it was just this reminder to me that I want to be vibrant. And it doesn't mean that I'm always going to reach that, but I need to focus my attention on those things that help me to get back to that. And that's really where I'm at now. I'm healing, I'm recovering, and I'm trying to get my energy back to where it used to be. And so painting is huge for me for that, for keeping my attitude focused in the right direction. And for me, surrounding myself with vibrant paintings. I have a gallery wall in my living room of vibrant paintings, and wearing things that are vibrant are just these reminders to me that I want to show up in my life full of energy and enthusiasm, and to just remember the awe of being here. And so that's what I do with these paintings. And so you can see, like, through this water part, like, I am struggling so bad. I'm going back and forth, and I don't think the green shows up as much on the screen, the distance. You can see a little bit. I keep, like, lifting it off. I'm trying, and I'm bringing in some gouache. I ended up having to let it dry for a little while. And I don't know, if you're not familiar with gouache, it's kind of like a cross between acrylic and watercolor, I feel like. But the reason to paint with, like, gouache and not just go straight to acrylic is if you're wanting to continue with watercolor, because gouache will blend, and it can be reactivated with water. And so it will blend, and like with this water, I get it going, and then later I come back with a color from my watercolor to add a little bit of depth on the back, on the top line. And if you use acrylic, you cannot paint with watercolor on top of it, and it's a different texture, and so there's just more of a disconnect to me with doing that. I think in certain instances it's beautiful and it's great. You just have to kind of know what you're going after. And so I like to be able to go back and forth, and I wanted to keep using my watercolors. And so with gouache, I can get some of that opaqueness and cover in areas that really need to be covered and go thicker, but then I can still paint with some of my watercolor, being mindful that when I go over it, it is going to kind of blend on the page, which when I was doing acrylic, that's one thing I like to do. Sometimes I would mix on my palette, but then I also loved seeing how colors would mix with, like, on the painting, kind of in unexpected ways. And so some of that happens with this. And there was also, when I was doing the sky on this, I was like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to bring in some blue. Again, I had all these yellow marks, and it was creating a green, and I'm like, I like having yellow, but I had gone over and gotten some green. And so I just play with it. I just play until I liked it. And, you know, right here, when I start making these marks, I was feeling really frustrated, and I was like, it needs, I don't know, like, and I just started kind of doing, like, scribble circle marks, and had done the little arches, kind of, and trying to bring in a little bit more of those, like, you know, the yellow and the kind of the coral sunset colors. Ends up with, like, a little bit of a lavender because it blended really nicely there. And again, I think one of the things that I love so much about this style is those unexpected things that happen that I feel like I couldn't have planned this. I couldn't have thought and made it turn out like that. And, you know, I used to do a lot of drawing, and way back in the day, some painting where it was like I was looking at something realistic and trying to get it. So, you know, trying to replicate a sky or something from a photo. And I don't know at what point it was. I was like, if I want a photo of that, I will just have a photo of that. I want something that captures, that's more about the emotion or the feeling, that's more stylized. And again, painting for me, I want to create something that's beautiful, that captures those feelings of how I was, you know, in those moments of just that awe. And it's like, it almost doesn't feel real when you're just, your breath is taken away in a moment. But also to remind myself that the most important part is that it is therapeutic to me. And if I am not enjoying the process, if I am not enjoying creating this, what am I doing? And that is a constant for me. And so I was feeling that frustration with the sky, and that's why all of a sudden, like, I started doing those arches and kind of swirling my brush around. And maybe a better thing would be to step away if you're feeling that way. But sometimes I'm like, it just need to be changed up. Like, this just isn't working. But letting myself do that, and then I'm like, yes, there it is. Now I'm back to, enjoying it. I was getting too tight with the process and too much of like, trying to make it just perfect and just so, and and I was like, I'm just gonna swirl this together, and maybe it's gonna mess it up. And so I would have walked away, and I would have come back with fresh eyes and tried. So the other thing I do want to say with this, I've condensed it, I've sped it up, clearly, but I painted this over the span of 2 days. I don't know exactly how many hours it took, several hours. And so, and this is condensed to just over 30 minutes, I think. But I did have time in between, and I left it on the table, and I'd walk by and I'd look at it and be like, okay, here, like this looks a little unbalanced, or maybe I need to add this color here. And so my thought process a lot of times whenever I'm trying to finish a piece is really about trying to balance out the colors so that the eye moves around. And then also with detail, like one of the things I was really worried about after I had chosen the inspiration pick, because I was like, I love that. It's like peeking through these trees. But then I'd sketched it out, and I first get the paint up on these trees, and I'm like, there's no branches on these trees. It's literally just these two giant tree trunks going up through my painting. And for a moment I was like, this was a really dumb, like, composition to pick. Like, I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. But I liked that it challenged me to think, how do I still make these tree trunks look interesting and still blend with everything else and not stick out like sore thumbs, but to frame it and flow with it all still beautifully. And so I guess, again, I'm just talking your ear off, trying to talk about my process through all of this, in hopes that maybe it'll help you with your own, and to get out of your head a little bit whenever you're painting, and really to remind yourself to just have fun with it. And I think, there's been a lot of talk around AI and, things it can create. And there's a lot of different thoughts and things artists say. And I don't know that I have a fully thought out response to the AI situation. But if you're doing art because you enjoy it, because it's fun to you, because it helps you relax, because it helps you to focus your thoughts and to focus your energy, then that's the main thing, right? And the bonus part is when we can create a beautiful piece of art out of that. This particular piece was a gift that I was painting for one of my surgeons. She has just surprisingly, I've just seen her more. Like, there's been different things, and I saw her a lot more than I thought, and she helped me in different situations that wasn't even what I initially saw her for. And that's very, very vague, but I'm like, I don't want to get into all my medical stuff, but so I wanted to do something really special for her. And she is here in Washington now, but she is from Florida, and so I almost painted her like a scene from Florida, or looked up a picture, and I just happened to come across this one when I had been out at the coast here, and I was like, I think that would be a really good jumping off point for something for her. And so, when we can do little gifts for people like this, sometimes speak with our emotions, our brushstrokes, as opposed to words. It is just a little different. Again, down that bottom, you can see I was painting some little flowers. I was like, I don't know. And I blurred it all up. And there are a couple times, this tree on the left, I got it really muddy. I got it where I was like, oh my God. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do, because watercolor and gouache, while I know you're supposed to be able to lift it, and maybe some do better, the set of watercolors I have is from Master's Touch. Like, I literally just went to Hobby Lobby. They were 40% off, and I bought that. And because I was just trying to dabble, and then I kind of fell in love. So, but I ended up loving how vibrant the colors were with their watercolors, but a lot of them didn't. Like, one big piece I was working on, a lot of the colors did not lift very well. And so with this, again, you'll see, I keep getting it where I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, this is kind of cool. Is this working? I don't know. There was a little bit of that going on in my head, but I was like, this is cool enough. And I just have to remind myself, I'm like, it's fine. It'll work out. You'll figure it out. It's not ruined. Because I don't know about you, especially when you start getting close to the end of a painting and you're really liking a lot of the things happening, and you're like, I don't want to mess it up, and start feeling a little bit of that, like, can I get it finished without accidentally messing it up? And so I try to be really mindful. If I hear myself making thoughts like that, I'm like, of course you're gonna be able to finish it. You're gonna bring it together. It's gonna be great. And all else fails, there's acrylic at the very end. You'll cover it up. Sorry, excuse me. But yeah, so here I'm coming in again. I kind of had like that yellow-ish color, and it was a beach, but the beach is different here in Washington. It's not like a sandy beach like you typically think of, but there was some sand down there. And I wanted it to pull that color. You see the orange up in the top right, then there's kind of the golden colors in the sky. And so I wanted it to wrap back around to come through down in that sandy part. And so that's, again, I think one of the things that I really think about is how the color is moving around the page. And sometimes I bring it through in like the little dots. You see like the bright pink dots that are in kind of the tree to the far right, and then there's some dots in the sky over on the left. And there had been some down lower, or maybe I haven't added those yet. But again, my hope in sharing this entire painting process and not cutting anything out and just speeding it up to try to condense it for you is for you to see that there are times I make mistakes. There are times it's like, how this is looking really terrible. It's like what my mom likes to reference, somebody made, it's like the ugly teenager phase. And you're just like, everything's awkward and not working, quite fitting together and trying to figure out life. And that happens. And I feel like most of my paintings will go through a period of that where I just keep following the parts that are working. I keep building, and I keep just trying to add things that I'm liking and colors that are going to bring in the feel of what I want, and layering. And with watercolor and gouache, in the beginning, I was a little timid because I was so afraid of getting everything muddy. And I started realizing, like, I actually don't mind if it gets a little muddy, because it brings some of like that earthiness that kind of balances out my work, because I like to paint with really vibrant colors, and I like things, that are very colorful. And so in a way, it works. And I'm sure I'll look back on some of these one day and be like, oh my gosh, like you could have avoided that, or you could have not gone through that. But I think about that with life also, that how many times it's like we had to go through that experience to really understand it and to get better and to grow from it. And painting, for me, I'm like, that's the safest way to learn stuff. It's the safest place to gain confidence with myself and to trust myself. And if you can have confidence and trust yourself, that's going to carry over so well in so many other aspects of life. And, you know, painting's a really fun way to build up those skills. So anyways, I hope that this has inspired you. If you have been wanting to play with doing intuitive painting with watercolors, that maybe you could pick up some gouache. I need to get some more colors of gouache. I only have one set that's like neon color. Of course, I would order neon colors, and I'm using the Arteza gouache, and it's in the neon color set. And I'm using Master's Touch watercolor. It's just a set from Hobby Lobby. And just building and playing. And, the gouache will help to kind of cover over some things if you're not really liking it. And you can come back and add a little bit with watercolor if you want, but it is going to blend on the canvas with the gouache, because gouache is water activated, like the watercolor. And yeah, it's kind of my new obsession. I'm really, really loving the process. There's just something, I don't know, it's just a different process than working with acrylics. And I think acrylic, if you've never done intuitive painting at all, acrylic really is the place to start, because it's a lot more forgiving. And if you don't like it, you can literally just cover over it and you're good to go. But if you're familiar at all with acrylic and intuitive painting and you want an extra little challenge, or you just like the look of this style, I highly, 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 highly recommend it. So from here, I think I'm pretty much just adding in kind of finishing touches, adding in little marks, and I decided to do these arrows in a couple different spots. Don't know really what spurred me to do that, but I was feeling it. I followed that, little like, you should do this. I'm like, yeah, I should do that. That would be cool. I think that would be nice. And sometimes I have those thoughts and then it does not turn out cool, and I'm like, ugh, and then I have to figure out how to make it work. So, sometimes we think we have good ideas and then they're not good ideas, and we just have to keep going, right? So anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. And I realize I never even said my name. I am Erin Carlisle, and I am the founder of The Art of Living Vibrant, and I am so thankful that you guys are here. So I am an artist, designer. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I do paintings and I do design. I have leggings, sweatshirts, t-shirts, some stuff for the home, just things to help you make every day brighter. So you can check out my website. I'll put it in the comments. I'll put it in the notes here so that you can check that out if you want. Subscribe, like this video if you liked it. Any comments, ideas, questions, anything like that, just let me know. I will do my best to get back to you to answer. And yeah, I think that's it. I have talked for nearly 30 minutes, so I am gonna say peace out, peace and love. this is just, I like to cover my painting around the edges also, just so that it wraps. I don't really like to do a solid color or tape it off. I know some artists do, but I like to wrap it. So anyways, that's what I was doing there. Until next time, my friends, peace and love.